Hello, once again, it's Monday, May the 11th, 2009, and I open the National Post to page A4 and I see Ottawa Mulls Gang Blacklist. Well, isn't this just wonderful? And guess where it comes from? From the ultra-socialist Bloc Québécois. I regret to say that my fellow separatists in Quebec generally are quite socialistic, quite different than Western separatists. But anyway, the thing they're proposing is an insidious destruction of individual responsibility. I've been a lawyer for 38 years. I believe in individual freedom, but I also believe in individual responsibility and not group liability for the acts of any individual. Because I'm a leader of the Western Canada concept, if I was to commit a crime, that doesn't mean every member of my party is in any way guilty of having done anything. Well, they're after the Hells Angels, you see, so therefore we shouldn't object to these gang laws. They want to make it possible to have one determination made by Parliament that a gang is a criminal organization, or that it's a gang at all. The Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, I don't even know what they are. I read the papers, of course, and of course we're told they're a gang of criminals. But if they're so bad, and they commit so many murders and do so many illegal things, prove it like you would against anybody else. Prove the crime, convict the individual, but don't find a whole group of people guilty. And even if the Hells Angels were as bad as they are represented, this is only the beginning. Don't you realize that once they've established a right to make a certain group of people a gang and make them all alleged to be criminals, found to be criminals in fact, presumed to be criminals because they're members of that group, just like they did at Nuremberg about the SS. Every member of the SS was called a criminal because he was part of a, quote, criminal organization. Well, we don't know what individuals did. And if there's crimes committed by individuals, prove it, like you would anybody else. The problem is, after they've established the criminal nature to the satisfaction of a parliamentarian, who primarily is interested in votes and not in right or wrong, he's not a judge, he's not going to sit with any presumption of innocence, he's not going to ask for evidence, he's going to see what the newspapers say about this group, and he's going to decide what they think, so he thinks the same way. They're not leaders, they're sheep, right? That's the way they are. But the next group, well, gee, it could be a political party that believed in separation. How about the Bloc Québécois? Maybe they're a criminal gang. Maybe their organization is talking treason. What if a group of ultranationalists got elected by vilifying the Bloc Québécois, and they said, by golly, those people are treasonous? I've heard it said many times, and it might very well be popular someday. Think about it, you Bloc Québécois members. How would you like to be called a criminal gang? And because one of your members said something that was treasonous, for example, you're all guilty, and you're declared to be guilty because you're part of that group. That's what is the result of group liability. This is the way that groups are made criminal by the presumption of politicians. And that's the way the Soviet Union worked. There was class enemies, there were enemy groups, and that's how presumptions are created, so that it doesn't matter what you do as an individual, it's the group you belong to. And that's wrong. Our whole system of justice is founded on individual responsibility, and if you have evidence against an individual of an individual crime, prove it in the normal way to the satisfaction of a jury if it's a serious allegation, or a judge in the case of something liable to penalty of less than 5 years. But prove it. Don't just make the presumption because you're a member of a group. And that's the way Canada's moving. It's all about groups. It's all about multicultural groups. It's all about victim groups like the Japanese Canadians. It's all about groups basing their rights on who they are as members of a group, not as individuals. And that is entirely wrong. And for this reason, we have to free the West to get back to the principles of individual responsibility.